this episode of Mitch's Garage, I'm going to be attempting to take the front end off my 2000 Mercury, and I'm going to put on a 2005 Crown Victoria front end. Why? Because I like the look of a Crown Victoria better, personally. Other than that, there's no practical reason. There's nothing wrong with the front end of this car. It's in good shape. So I'll try to do everything I can to show you the steps. But if I miss something, you know, I'm not perfect. So what you're going to need to do here in a nutshell is you're going to have to remove the bumper, the fenders, the header panel with the grill, the hood. The hood's going to go back on, but just for taking the fenders off, the hood needs to come off. Other than that, it should be a direct swap. We'll see. Here's my new painted parts. Here's the bumper and the fenders. Here's the header panel with the grill in it. Steps, you're going to want to take the corner light out so you can gain access to 2 bolts to remove the bumper. So to remove the bumper, there's going to be 3 clips or bolts here, 2 bolts in here, and there should be 2 bolts up under the front. This one's already out, and there's one right here. And the same on the other side. There should be 3 clips and 2 bolts, and the bumper should come off. Corner lights, you're going to want to take out this Phillips screw, and on the back side down in here, once you take this plastic off, there's going to be a nut down in there to take off and a connector for the bulb. And able to remove the headlight, you need to pull this clip off and pull this clip off, and then your headlight should pop out and you can disconnect the wires. Right down, you can't really see, but right down in there where my finger's pointing is the bolt for the marker light. Now that the headlight's out, you've gained access to that bolt right there, which is for the marker light. I'm just going to use my impact instead of a ratchet to save time. A couple extensions, universals, whatever is required. That nut is 12mm. Okay, so I guess there's only 1 bolt in here. The Crown Victoria has one here and one here. And this is an 8mm. Yes, there is one 8mm here, and there's one 8mm right down in here, which is rusted all the fuck. Okay, so there's 2 more bolts holding the bumper on. They're right here. They connect to the bottom of the fender. Of course, they're rusted all to hell, so got my one size fits all wrench. I'll wrench those off, and the bumper should be ready to come off. Okay, so now the bumper, the headlights, and the corner lights are removed. The next step is I think I'm going to remove the header panel, the piece with the grill. See how that goes. In order to remove the header panel, I think it's 8 bolts. There's one here, one here, so it's 2, 2 there, 3, 4, 2 there, 5, 6, 1 there, and then 1 there. So 8 bolts, and the header panel should be free to come out. I'm going to use an 8mm socket. You can use a 5/16. I opted to take the grill out. It's 5/11mm bolts along the top of the grill, and a couple clips on the bottom. 4 clips on the bottom, just so I can access the bolts. This one easier. I got the top one out, but I wanted to get the bottom one a little easier. Same on this side. To get the header panel off, you're going to take out these 2 bolts out of the fender and this 1 bolt out of the fender, so you can push the fender over a little bit to get the alignment stubs to come free. And you have to do that on both sides. Okay, the header panel's out. All I did was take a screwdriver, put it down here, and just kind of pried the fender over just enough to get the alignment stubs out. Once I got one side out, the whole thing just popped right out easy. Next thing I'm going to do is I took out the Airbox. It's supposed to be 3 11mm bolts, but it was just 1 in my case. The other 2 were broke off. So now I'm just going to remove the windshield washer tank off the fender. It's 2 bolts, and there's probably a plug in to the pump. I'm not 100% sure, but it's pretty simple stuff. Anything that's attached to the fender on the inside, there's a ground wire up there. I'm going to connect all that, disconnect all that. Same on the other side. I'm going to disconnect any wires that are, or ground wires that are connected to the fender, and then we'll go from there. So I've unconnected everything from the fenders. I've removed these strut shocks, or whatever you want to call them, for the hood. The hood supports, they're disconnected from the hood. And then it was two 8mm bolts on each side of the hood, and the hood pops right off. Now I'm going to disconnect the inner fender from the fender. There's a couple bolts down here in the fender. There's one, hard to see, but there's one right there. And then there's another one right there on either side. I'm removing the mud flaps to gain access to the bottom of the fender, to remove the bottom plastic, because I think there's bolts down there that are going to have to be removed. In order to remove the rocker panel cover, this black plastic rocker panel cover, you just sort of find, you can see these little white tabs in here. Those are what locks in place, so you just kind of find the tab, stick your screwdriver in, and it just kind of pops off. I just do that the whole way along. And I think there's a screw here in the back, but I'm not going to fuck with that. I'm just going to leave it hanging so I can gain access to the bolts on the bottom of the bumper, or fender, I mean. Removing the hinges from the fenders. It's a 8mm bolt there, and an 8mm bolt there to gain access to one bolt there and one bolt there for the fender. There's two 8mm bolts here that you get from the underside. There was two bolts here, I believe they were 13mm, possibly 14. There's two 10mm bolts down here at the bottom, and you have to peel your inner fender back, and then there's one bolt in here. Also, where the hood lift attaches, you need to take that off also. You might be able to get away with taking this one off when you take this one off, and then you don't have to take that off, but it's up to you. Okay, so your two bolts are here. There's two bolts. You can see the top of it. Two bolts there. And you've got your two 13mm bolts in there. 10mm bolts here at the bottom of the fender, and the other bolts right in here behind the inner fender. So there you have it. The whole front clip is removed from the car. Now I'm going to start installing the Crown Victoria parts and see what needs to be changed or modified or anything like that. There's the Crown Victoria header panel. I mounted up using the Marquis mount. No issues. Okay, so now I'm putting on the Crown Victoria fender. So far everything seems to line up. Those holes line up. That hole lines up. These holes under here seem to line up. That lines up. So far so good. It's not done yet, but it's 3/4 bolted on there. Crown Victoria's fender's on there 100%. Color match is a little bit different, but just an old car. Everything lined up pretty good. The only issue I sort of had was the mount that's down in here. I had to kind of pull the fender a little bit to get it to line up. but everything seemed to go all right. I'll put the other fender on, and then some of my bolts here out in the front I left loose just so I can get everything to go where they need to go, and I'll tighten them up once I get the other fender on, get everything lined up. Okay, I've got both fenders on. Everything went pretty smooth. I had to finesse the fender a little bit to get it to line up to the right bolt holes, but other than that it was pretty good. There's one hole that doesn't line up though. This hole here is not lining up. This one lined up perfect, but this one's right about here, so I might have to drill that. That lined up good there. This side here, both bolts went in perfect. Okay, so I got the bumper on now, and the grill installed into the header panel. Just a few little more buttoning up on the bumper down here. I'm using bolts instead of the plastic clips because they didn't come out so well. I had to break them off. So I'm using bolts instead. It's starting to come together. Headlights are installed. I plan on taking those back out in the future and cleaning them up or putting new ones, as those ones are pretty dull looking, but for now they'll serve the purpose. Now I'm going to put the corner lights in. Okay, I've got the hood on now. I'm just adjusting the hinges so the hood sits the right height in the back. I'm adjusting the hinges, the 2 bolts down here in the back so it sits at the right height with the top of the fender. And then next I'm going to adjust the 2 bolts, these 2 bolts here, so my gap is correct along the edge of the fender. Okay, there you have it. There's my 2000 Grand Marquis with a 2005 Crown Victoria front clip on it. I'm just debating on whether or not I should put the trim from the Marquis on the Crown Victoria fender to make it match. Also, I'm thinking about putting the chrome on the front bumper. Don't mind the flat tire.